ladies. It's Pastor Meredith, Zamora here. Just want to talk to you a little bit today about seeds of faith and how important it is and how our faith doesn't always start with big things, how often our faith starts with little things, and how important a seed is in the vision of it all. In Matthew chapter 17, I want to read to you a couple verses real quick. In Matthew chapter 17, it says, "He replied, because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." What an incredible thought. What an incredible picture. I have lived long enough to know this, though, that things just don't simply happen. Big things start small. Nothing great happens overnight. An orchard starts as a tiny seed that is planted. A baby is a seed so small that you can't even see it, that's planted inside the womb of a woman. And your faith is no different. Your faith has the potential to move mountains. It starts so often as something small. Over the years, I've learned some things along this journey about seeds. Jesus there in Matthew is using it as a parable. He's talking about a mustard seed. And here's the beauty of it, that he says you could say to this, if you have faith that big, which is just tiny, microscopic, you could say to a mountain to be moved, and it will be, and nothing will be impossible. So it gives this picture that your faith is not fragile. It might be small, but it's not fragile, because that mustard seed, once it's planted, has the potential to grow into something grand. In fact, a mustard tree, there's a variant of a mustard seed that basically grows into a tree that is big enough for the birds to nest in and find rest. And so the beauty of it is, in your life, in my life, in the journey that we go through, when we begin to understand this, that our seed often starts small, but life and the trials and the stuff we go through is what causes it to grow and what makes things expand in our lives. Seeds there's a process to the seed. The first breaking of a seed is when it is planted. When that seed is planted, it has to break out of itself. That's a hard one, because when it's planted into the dirt, into the darkness, there's nothing around it. Nobody knows what's happening. Nobody can see the progress that's being made. But inside that seed, the potential that was put there, the very purpose that was ordained of it, tells that seed that it's got to grow and it's got to come out, and it pushes towards the light that it can't see. But the warmth from above is what begins to pull that seed out. So the first breaking is that it has to break out of itself. The second breaking is that it has to break out of the ground. That's when we all begin to see things happening, and you see that little shoot begin to come up, and then all of a sudden that little shoot turns into a tree trunk, and that tree trunk begins to have leaves on it. And the last of the three breakings is when that seed breaks forth with fruit. All of them have their struggles and their trials and their stories that go along with it. But it's not until that tree produces fruit that others can actually taste and see of the process, or how good God has been, and the multiplication of it. And then once it breaks forth into seed, it has the ability now to reproduce and to grow other trees and to grow other things. So I say all of that to say this: you and I go through life, and the seed of faith that has been planted in us through the preaching of the word, through our experience, through our worship, through our time with God, is planted down deep in the dark soil of our heart. But it is the warmth of the love of God that causes it to grow and come forth. The hardest breaking it ever has to break out of is out of itself, out of the shell that we put around our heart, the shell we put around ourselves. But eventually that seed, when we allow it to, and it's watered by the word of God, and it's warmed by the warmth of the love of God, which is found not just in our relationship with God this way, but in our relationship with God this way. And once that happens, my sisters, it is so amazing, because that seed will come forth. And once that seed becomes forth, then it starts to break out. And that's when all of a sudden you find yourself catching your speech and catching the things that are happening and catching stuff around you. And then before you know it, you have built in your life, God has built within you a tree. And that tree is like the trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord. That's what Isaiah says that we are to be. But it begins to produce fruit. And now when somebody is needing some peace and somebody's needing some hope and somebody's needing some joy, they can come get that off of you. Here's the beauty of it. Do not despise the day of small beginnings. Don't ever count yourself out because you feel like your faith is small. Your small faith can do mighty things if you will allow it to be planted, if you will allow it to be watered, if you will allow it to grow. You will stand and find out that nothing is impossible. You can say to that mountain, be thou removed and cast into the sea. Doubt not in your heart, but believe, and it will be done, because nothing is impossible for God. My sisters, I bless you today. I hope you have tremendous, crazy faith. And I hope you recognize that the seeds that have been planted are good, and God is causing good things to grow out of the soil of your heart. God bless you. Be encouraged. Grow today your seeds of faith.